Hi, everybody. This is John Toker from CarBiz Insider. I have another special guest here with me today, Tim Hayden. Hey, Tim, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, John. Thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure having some expert like you on the show because I'm going to be asking you lots of technical questions, and so my audience can learn a lot of stuff from you.
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear. There are no experts in the world, right? I mean, I'm sure there are some mechanics out there that would argue with me, but for the most part, we're all learning, right? So, I hope to share with you some of the things I've learned, and I'm expecting to hear a little bit from you as well.
That's great. So why don't I put you on the spotlight? You can introduce yourself to the audience, tell who Tim Hayden is, what do you do, and why they should be listening to this conversation.
All right. Thanks, John. I'm Tim Hayden. I'm the CEO of Brain+Trust. We're a consultancy that work with brands and marketers, customer experience professionals across a number of industries, automotive being one of them, why I'm here today. But basically, to get a handle of all of the primary first party data that exist within the business. For automotive industry, it's going to be coming from all over the dealership itself and all over the OEM, your agencies, your partners. We'll talk more about that today. But from that, the data analysis that you're able to go through and the visions that people have and what they want to do with their business as things change, as things move forward, right? Because there's a substantial amount of volatility and change happening in the marketplace. We're also retained many times by our clients to help them decide what to do next. So it starts with data analysis, then it turns into strategy or it turns into insights and then strategy. But that's what we do here at Brain Trust.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for the brief introduction there. We got Sean says, "Hey Tim." So I think one of your colleagues or people that you know from the business. Um, Anyways, so I have some topics that I prepared to ask you these questions, and they're related to the business. And why don't we start with these questions that we prepared? The first one is, how can the inventory challenge of the past 18 months create new opportunities for dealers? There's a car shortage going on. So why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Well, sure. I mean, anytime you have uh, the challenge that you're talking about, right, where demand is outweighing supply. The good news is for those that have been paying attention, you've got a line of people that are outside your door. You don't have enough product to sell to all of them. To build relationships with those individuals, to build customer relationships. One of the things that I really have seen in the car business is how you can leverage that pre-owned or that used inventory. How can you turn that into subscription programs or some type of partnership, or like I said, subscription opportunity for folks where with a credit card, there's a number of companies out there that can enable you to do this. And we've had some clients that have gone out and tried to do this proprietarily as well. But how do you start to just build a relationship, not always selling a new car to them, not always selling a vehicle to them, but perhaps almost getting in the car rental business? But for me, it's not about car rental because I think rental car agencies have a bad name, mostly earned. They deserve it. But dealers have an opportunity to forge a different type of relationship with that used inventory. So there's a lot to unpack there, obviously, John, in terms of what happens in the auction environment. But I think the dealers that have been able to capitalize on this opportunity to say, hey, let's give you something to drive today. Let's give you a flat fee you pay every month. We'll take care of the insurance. We'll take care of the maintenance. You just come back to us month to month. If you don't want the car, bring it back to us. You've got that relationship. You know who they are, and you know that they will be in the market once that new inventory and the supply actually shows back up.
It's very interesting, thinking outside the box because right now I'm sure dealers are turning down a lot of customers because of lack of inventory. And I think customers going to remember that when that inventory ramps up. And your solution is pretty, decent because you can still retain them, the relationship with those people that you may not be able to sell them a car at the moment due to the fact that the shortage of inventory. But providing services like that could be an interesting solution. So I think it's a really good, thinking outside the box. That's why I really like consultants, with the good reputation, because when you go to your business, you're there every day. It's the same thing for you, and you get used to the things, and even the issues that you see may not look like an issue to you because you're so used to it. That's why it's a great idea to bring the third party to once in a while check the health of your business, so that way they can give you a feedback. And it's nothing wrong doing that. You know what I mean? Like, we do our yearly checkups, making sure that our bodies are in good condition. We don't need to be sick to go to a doctor, right? Or get the blood test done. So I find it really useful for businesses to utilize consulting services, not because I'm a consultant, but
Sure you are. Sure you are. No, but you're John, you're absolutely right. I mean, consultants need consultants, right? I mean, we all do what we do in life, whether we sell cars or we sell burgers, and we look at the burgers all day long. We look at the cars all day long. To your point about turning people away because you don't have anything to sell to them, that's a transactional, linear way of thinking, right? Um, which you back into that, and you also back outside the box to say, what else can I do with these people that are in need or these people that are interested in what I'm selling, even if I don't have anything to sell to them? So the whole idea of bringing third party vendors, consultants, not everybody wants to be called a consultant, but strategists, right? Folks that have seen things from other places, I think you and I have talked about before, is to be able to see something that not anybody's seen before, right? And to not to basically try a new approach or to build a proof of concept with a new idea. I mean, it's what I think that's what that's all about.
yeah, can I agree more with you? uh, the other topic I like to get your idea on is, how can automation and better data intelligence help dealers grow their revenue? Because right now there's a car shortage, their revenues go down because of the volume.
Right.
So how can automation help these businesses, the dealerships?
Well, there are hundreds of products that are on the market right now, contraptions or software solutions that integrate with your DMS to tell you when someone's lease is about to expire or their note's about to mature or when it's their birthday, right? Again, these are all table stakes. These are all things that everybody should be looking at all the time, and most people, I think, most sales managers, most general managers have been looking at that type of data for many years to be able to do better forecasting, to do better predictive analysis of when sales may happen or when we should approach a customer. The bigger opportunity right now with automation, with machine learning, is to take all of the information that exists within the dealer, from parts and service to internet sales to new sales to pre-owned sales, from the F&I office, everywhere. I've met dealers that have CD-ROMs, just volumes of CD-ROMs sitting in filing cabinets from customers from 10 plus years ago. That's data. That's beautiful data. If someone bought from you in the past, there's a likelihood that they'll consider buying from you again. So, how do we get information from across the organization and put it all in a platform that has automatic analysis happening, right? Machine learning. How do we do it with artificial intelligence where we're bringing information in and we're allowing a 24/7 analysis of that information to determine what the preferences, the needs, and where the opportunities may exist in the information that we have, the data that we have in the organization?
That's really interesting. So what would you say would like, based on your experience, what kind of best practices did you see out there in different industries or car business? Like, how do you think, like, you think like one cookie cutter solution is okay for a business, or you should look into maybe customization, or what do you think the best practices are out there?
Well, I think it is about customization. It's about the bespoke opportunity to understand what is unique about the organization and their audience. No two businesses, no two companies, even when I've dealt with uh, chains, right, with multiple locations for the same brand, it's been always the way in the past of saying we're going to adopt a new protocol for doing business. We're going to integrate or deploy new software for everybody to use, a mobile app that everybody has to use. And the challenge with that is things like geography and culture and the weather, right? Things change how operations take place. They change how people communicate. So when you think about it, you have your business. You shouldn't really think about things in terms of best practice opportunities. You should look at them as owned primary individual opportunities. What is it that we have in terms of our current information, our current operations, and the audience that we serve? In in order to look at that and to understand what that can provide you in terms of tea leaves, that's the bigger opportunity than just buying something off the shelf or going to a conference and having somebody on a stage tell you that this is the way to do it or this is the best practice. I don't cotton to that, and I've found again and again that if you can get a in our situation or our case, when we're meeting with the client and we're helping them understand what's unique about their business, we're showing them things in their data that they never knew about their customers. As we're doing that, their eyes start to open and they start to say, wow, I never realized that. And it starts ideation. It's things that we never knew, right? Maybe things that they've been considering about trying or trying to prove out or experimenting with for years. Now they have the opportunity because of something we showed them, a particular insight. Again, that doesn't come from listening to someone tell you there's one way to do it or there's a best way to do it. It comes from digging in and being extremely diligent with the information you have around you.
Well, that's really interesting. So you gather all this data based on the unique situation of the business. Where do you use this data, like to target those people in a specific time, in a specific situation, or what are the best practices out there? Like, okay, you got all the data, so what do you do with it?
Well, John, before we hang up today, you're going to stop saying best practice, okay? Um, so, I mean, I'll tell you right now. One big thing that you're able to do is you're able to eliminate redundancy, right? That situation that all of us have experienced, right? It's not limited to the car business, but there's a recall on my car, or it's the holidays is a better example. It's the holidays, and there's a certain retailer that I bought a gift for my wife from 2 years ago, and I don't like to name names to throw somebody under the bus, but it comes to the fact that she shopped there, I've shopped there, she shopped there more than once. She's shopped there through 3 or 4 different smartphones that she's owned, used a couple of different email addresses, 2 or 3 different payment methods. And what happens in the holidays? We get 7 catalogs from that one retailer, right? So one of the big things that you're able to do is eliminate the redundancy, not just in what you put in their mailbox, but what you can do with programmatic media. And this is where everything's headed across all industries, is in the idea of personalization and contextual relevance of what you put in front of your audience. And to do so in a way, programmatic media is built to do this already, is to do it in a way that the ads that John sees, only John sees. So those are 2 different case studies, I would say, that I could tell you, are 2 different possibilities for what you would do with the insights on the other side of having well unified and cleaned, resolved information about your business and about your customers.
Wow, but I've been hearing this programmatic marketing, and I think you use platforms like DSPs, like demand side platforms,
Right,
and and my understanding is back in the days when you said digital marketing, back in the days, I mean like a couple of years ago, it was all about Facebook and Google, and
right,
then I find out that Facebook and Google is only like 25% of available digital marketing.
right.
There's actually, it's a lot deeper than that. When you go into those DSPs, you go like native ads and all these crazy things. And yeah, I think that's, I wouldn't say future. I think that's now. Like, I think it's a really good topic that, we're sharing with the dealers here, because this is like next level stuff. So thank you for that.
Well, you bet, John. I mean, and you just I want to call back to a point that you just made, and I won't name names. Maybe I will. Facebook, Google, TikTok, Amazon, um, Apple. Even Apple's proven over the last 24 months that they're not exactly everybody's friend, right? So with this, it's that opportunity. If you're a business operator, if you're the larger you are, the the bigger the responsibility and the opportunity to do this now is. You have to understand that you have an opportunity to build a one-to-one relationship with your customers. And I left this out when I introduced myself, but 10 years ago, I was a mobile strategist, and I was helping companies with mobile app strategies, text messaging strategies. If you've ever been to a Hilton hotel and used your phone as your key to unlock your door, I wrote the whole strategy for that.
Oh,
And
wow.
at the end of the day, I would tell my colleagues that were dealing in social media, I would say, why would we ask people to send us a direct message on Twitter when they could just call us, or they could send us a text message, or even, crazy idea, we could email them directly to them. Right there, we control everything. We control the content, we control the analytics, we do all that. Now, Apple's challenged a little bit of that last part over the last year, but at the end of the day, it's about building that peer to peer relationship between the brand and the customer. And that's what the big opportunity is here. To your point, those brands that pour 80% plus of their budget into social media, into digital media, even for that matter, they're missing the point that that may provide them with some excellent air cover, but direct marketing, direct communication with the people who've already bought from you and the people that they're connected with, that's the fastest way to grow an audience, the fastest way to grow revenue.
Wow. By the way, I really like that Hilton Honors app, because when you go to a busy hotel, and in Canada, we like to chit chat with the people a lot when we go to like cash registers or something, because
Sure.
we don't have very many friends, so we spend at least 15 minutes every time, minimum. So there's a huge lineup there, and every time I see a lineup, I start laughing like, hey, look at the losers, because I have my app, I have my key on my phone already, I checked in, I just go to the door and door unlocks and I'm in, so I don't have to interact with anybody. So thank you for doing that too.
Well, that's it. I mean, and you know everything else you can do with that app. You can order a 6 pack of beer and a burger to be waiting for you in your room when you get there. You get to pick your room, right? You get to, I mean, all the functionality and utility that's been brought there, and that exists between the hotel or the hotel brand and you, right? And to the point you made, they've actually been able to reduce the headcount that they put at the front counter now, because there are more and more people like you and me that are using that and just going straight up to their rooms using that mobile app alone. So there are these other benefits that come from this.
Great. I actually have a live question just came up. See if you're going to be able to help them out. So, can anyone quantify the quality of communication with customers? Tim, when you get 7 catalogs instead of one during holidays, how can this impact be measured and communicated to the business?
That's a great question, Chris Miller. Well, I will tell you that the obvious one is there's going to be a savings. There's going to be a reduction in media expense. There's going to be a reduction in operational expense, human time that goes into list building and data analysis. Um, if you can automate that, and in the technology we're talking about here, and I think Chris, if that's who I think it is, he's probably familiar with it too, is customer data platforms. Your ability to go through and just build one single record for every customer you have, no matter how many email addresses, how many Wi-Fi networks they've been on, how many smartphones they've owned, how many different cars they've driven in the last 5 years, 10 years, however long they've been your customer, being able to have just one single record for those customers, that more than anything else is going to put you in a position to reduce your expenses. Beyond that, better segmentation. It's not just 10 personas in a customer journey mapping exercise that is your audience. If you really dig into the data, you'll find out that you have probably hundreds or thousands of archetypes. So, better segmentation that gives us a nod to what you mentioned already, John, what you suggested with demand side platforms. Demand side platforms and programmatic media have been built for several years to work with many different customer segments rather than just the four or five, the 10 that most people are building and illustrating in terms of personas or their core audience. So if you're able to do that, you're able to move more closer or more close to that nuanced personalization, that contextual relevance of the message, the design, the offer, the promotion, whatever it is we're putting in front of that audience. And now we have, instead of 10, we have 100 different ways that we can slice and dice that. These are some of the things that the business can realize once they've gone through that process.
Wow, that's amazing. Really good. Well, let's jump into a very important topic here. Since we're talking about a lot of data, we're dissecting this information, going after that. How is data privacy and pending data regulations a blessing to the car business?
Well, John, we've already let that one out of the bag. I mean, one of the things, all of these privacy laws, those that are happening country by country, those that are happening continentally, um, as they come into force, they really have four or five things that they all say the same. And this all started with GDPR, really, in Europe. But the idea that the customer or the consumer, as most of the laws are written, the consumer now has the right to go to a company and say, let me see my data, let me correct my data, let me ask you to pause using my data, let me tell you you cannot sell my data. And biggest of all is you need to delete all my data. I don't want to hear from you again. This isn't unsubscription, an unsubscribe action for a newsletter. This is saying everything you have on me, I want you to get rid of it. So those are more and more, depending on where you live in the world, those are rights that are being given to consumers. Well, the beautiful thing about that, and the automotive industry is having its own come about here in the United States. The automotive industry is being told they can't even keep data for more than 2 or 3 years. So if you're not using it, I think is the caveat there. But with this, the big opportunity and why I always think privacy is a blessing is if you understand what those laws are saying, those five things that I rattled off, they're all telling you the same thing. They're like, well, do you know where the data is? Is it clean? Is it structured? Have you resolved it? Have you gone through data unification and entity resolution to build those singular records so when John Toker calls you up and says, I want to see everything you have on it, you can say, John, put your username and password here, and voila, here's everything we have on you. And John can say, wow, I haven't used that address in 5 years, or I haven't had that email address in 6 months. I haven't worked there for 10 years, whatever it might be, right? So, what this does is it provides all the benefit that we were just running down in terms of business savings, a reduction in expenses, cleaner, smoother operations, and to that nod to automation when it comes to data analysis is allowing humans to be humans in the organization to invest their time in being creative and strategic.
Wow, that's great. Really, really good stuff. I'm learning a lot of stuff from you today. um, the next topic is a very important topic. I actually had another podcast about this too with another industry expert. Uh, it's how can dealers prepare for connected and electric vehicles and compete with more players in the industry?
You know, Again, this is one of those things that is going to be very unique, dealership by dealership, dealership group by dealership group, OEM by OEM. I think the big opportunity here is just, let's face it, um, we've built dealer operations and dealer revenue models over the last 20, 30 years on fixed operations. And fixed operations is, as far as we can see, because we're in early days when it comes to EVs, fixed ops is not going to look the way it did before. There are no more oil changes. There are no more serpentine belts. There are just a fraction of the fluids in the vehicle. There's no more worry, or not as much worry, about overheating. And there's no spark plugs, and the list goes on, right? Well, we have to think about, what is it that the aftermarket looks like for EVs. That has yet to be really fully created. This is why watching SEMA and seeing what SEMA does, they've got a number of initiatives right now on the innovation front to determine what SEMA, who has historically been about the aftermarket, people building identities with their vehicles, or customizing, renovating, and for performance reasons, altering their vehicles, hot rods, right? Well, that won't look the same, but there's got to be something else for what happens with EVs. The table stakes are going to be, do you have chargers on site? If you have chargers on site, you'll need them, right? You'll need them just to keep the fleet of your inventory that's there, to keep it charged. No more running to the gas station, no more gas pump in the back of the dealership to fill cars up anymore. You'll need to have some semblance of a charging station there as well. One of the ideas that has come up with some of the dealers we've been meeting with is, if we're just in this first 5, 6 years with level 2 and level 3 charging and what's available from the OEM side, if it looks like people are going to spend an average of 20, 30 minutes charging their vehicle, how can the dealer become one of those places that folks want to come and stop and spend some time? Now, when I offer that, most people giggle, because one of the worst places to be, there's the dentist chair and then there's the waiting room of your car dealer, right? The bottom line is, I think we're going to start to see dealers retool themselves, where they become experience stations, maybe a playground, maybe cornhole boards, horseshoe pits, food trucks, live music, uh, fresh coffee for sure. Lots of dealers, lots of OEMs have coerced dealers to invest thousands of dollars just to pour fresh coffee and have a different hue of blue on the wall to make it a more comfortable experience in the waiting room. We're going to have to go far beyond that for people to want to stop for 20 or 30 minutes and charge their vehicle at the dealership. So there's 2, 3 things that are in play here. If you think about it, the dealer, with the real estate they have, they could charge food trucks to park there, and they could charge them on a monthly basis. They could charge them on a daily basis to charge there, to park there and to sell their hot dogs, their barbecue, their pizza, whatever it might be. But starting to think really outside the lines of what the dealership should be. It's not just a place to buy and service your vehicle anymore. It could be a place to charge it. And it could be a place where I recreate and I eat and I have meetings and I do other things while my car is charging. It's not just dealers that are in a race to get that dwell time, that 20 or 30 minutes. Everybody's looking at that right now, whether they are coffee chains or they're fast food or they're retailers. Everybody's going to try to crack that nut. If dealers want to really harden the relationship they have with their customers, they've got an opportunity to go ahead and reinvent what they have with all of that real estate that they have.
Well, yeah, thinking outside the box and utilizing your real estate. But it's an interesting topic, because when I'm talking to people from the US, like yourself, you guys always tend to be like, dealers are boring places, or like the coffee is not good, or like, I don't want to be there type of, but here in Canada, like when I'm talking about import dealers like Toyota, Honda, we have very nice dealerships here. Like the coffee machines are like Starbucks. I was in a dealership yesterday getting an oil change done. I'm not going to name them because of I don't want to advertise them, but they had a spa in the dealership that you can get a massage, like a legitimate massage, right? Like not like those, but it's like you can get a nail done there. Like if you're a lady, you can get your manicure and pedicure done, and they can do like nail polish. Like it was very nice to see that, right? I don't know. You guys don't have that kind of stuff there,
We don't have it at scale by any means, John. No, I
really?
mean, no. I mean, the majority of our dealers are um, linear transactional depots. You're there for two reasons. You're there to buy a new vehicle, shop and buy a new vehicle, test drive a new vehicle, or you're there to get your car repaired. There's really no other reason that you'd be there, and that other thing, right? The two or three things you just rattled off there. Dealers have tried a lot of different things, but the point I'm trying to make is with EVs, there is a distinct thing that happens over the next 5 to maybe 8, maybe 10 years before battery technology improves, before wireless charging becomes a reality. I think we've got an opportunity for dealers to be a part of that charging experience and to give manicures and pedicures and
Yeah.
sell them a slice of pizza. I think that a lot. I did see a question coming from Brady Farron.
Yeah, he's asking a data question. How does a dealer reconcile and coordinate the various data pools between CRMs, OEM data, connected vehicles, DMS, digital marketing, etc.? That's a really good question, by the way.
It's a great question, Brady, and you've got about maybe one third or one fifth the list of all the different data sources that are there and available. Not always super easy to get to. The connected car piece is going to be a little bit tricky. I think there are a few players that are in the market right now that are looking at that opportunity, because that really comes down to the question of who has the relationship with the customer. Is it the OEM or is it the dealer? I think most of us would argue that the dealer has the primary relationship with the customer. And because of that, we need to have our hands on that connected data, that connected car data as well. There are companies like Autonomo and others that are connected car data brokerages as well. I think you'll start to see companies like that, not necessarily them, that will start to merchandise that as solutions for dealers as well. Bigger question that you had there was how do you reconcile all that? So the standard process, and I won't go through all the detail, is to spend about 60 or 90 days documenting where the information exists today. Where is it? Where has integration already taken place? Most dealers have already tried to hook up marketing automation to their DMS. Most dealers have maybe invested in another CRM that can be used for marketing or marketing automation as well, and connecting that to the DMS and maybe porting data, exporting data via an API connection on Wednesdays at midnight, right? That kind of thing already has happened. The bigger opportunity here is that customer data platform technology that I spoke about earlier, is to create API connections with everything that you can create an API connection with. There will be data sources that you'll just have to do quick import or export with, and be able to download it from a source and then import it into the CDP. But that's what we're talking about here is being able to build as much as you can real-time API connections between all those data sources and the CDP, and then being able to prescribe what types of reports and what types of analysis you want that CDP to do for you. It will do things, it will continue to learn what we were talking about earlier with machine learning. It will continue to build up new analysis based on you querying a list or you going to search for certain customers, a CDP, and there's many of them on the marketplace. I'm not going to mention anybody by name right now. I'm not here to sell CDPs, but I'm just talking about the general premise of a CDP. This is something that 24/7 is looking at data and looking at what you've done with data, learning from how you use it to build better models for you. But it all starts, in answering your first question, with those API connections and being able to establish a connection with the CDP. That whole process, from strategy to implementation and using it in practical operation, is anywhere from 4 to 6 months, depending on the size of your organization.
Wow. Yeah, I'm learning new terms today. So the other thing with the data too, personal, like a suggestion too, based on the experience I have, better you work with your OEM and your rep coming from your factory. They can help you with your data too, because they have a lot of access to really big data, right? In terms of like the sales around you and other dealerships, like Polk data, they can pinpoint a lot of things for you. So a lot of the times, because dealers don't like to interact with their reps too much, so they don't have that kind of rapport. But my personal suggestion to any dealerships out there, if somebody comes from the factory, ask them questions about the data, because they have access to it, and data the manufacturers have is so vast, it's unbelievable. So just my 2 cents. But looks like we got another question came up, so let me try to put that on the screen and see if I can read it up. So good afternoon, team. Tim, pleasure to meet you virtually. I went to my local Ford dealership this morning for a recall, and they did two things well: arranged a lift home while I was waiting and replaced side mirror at no charge. But I think they missed, and let me just see. Where was this? Sorry, it's a pretty long question. Wait, arranged lift side mirror at no charge, but I think they missed an opportunity to tell the Ford story. Mini museum with interactive exhibits, VR headsets. I imagine Tesla is ahead of ahead of the brainstorming curve for the overcrowded charging stations. Great talk. Thank you, Chase.
Yeah, Chase, I think it's an incredible opportunity. That's a great idea. Every auto manufacturer has an incredible story behind it. Every OEM has got incredible visionary stories about the trials, tribulations of their history, throughout their history, how they got started. Um, Everybody has some type of appreciation, not always a, a want and need to know, but an appreciation for how products have changed and why they changed. Because there's usually pretty good stories on why, not just the company started, but Ford being a very obvious one. Stories that most of us are familiar with, but I think there's big opportunities for that. To your point, because you put it in there, I have to say real quick, Tesla, I think, has got a long way to go. Tesla has got a long way to go because with their supercharging network, with their supercharger network, here in Texas, at least, this is an anecdotal observation I'm giving you, but the places where I have gone when I've rented a Tesla, I use Turo a lot when I travel. Um, it's actually less expensive. I get the car I want, and it's way better customer service than anything Hertz or Enterprise or anybody could give me. But I used Turo, and I started to rent Teslas. Number one reason is when I land at an airport, Tesla drivers, Tesla owners will leave that car at the airport, ask me to text them as I'm walking out the door. Then they'll unlock the door of the car for me, and they'll give me a code to open the glove box, and I'll be able to drive the car off, right? Never have to stand in line, never have to fill out any paperwork. I did it all on the app. The problem is with the superchargers. They're, for the most part, in places, as I've noticed, shopping center, strip mall, parking lots, um, fast food places, fast food joints. Um, there was one in Fort Worth that I fell in love with because it was right next to a brewery with a coffee shop and a bodega across the street. That to me is where a supercharger needs to be, right? Where can I go spend 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes and burn some time, buy a gift for my wife, have a cup of coffee, balance it with a pint of beer? I mean, and I just one, not talking about having many, but just one before I drive the car away. Um, I just think that Most folks have looked at car charging. It's not just Tesla. They've looked at charging stations as just the need of charging vehicles. They haven't thought about the customer experience. They haven't thought about the upkeep and maintenance of those machines, of those chargers, but they've as near as much as they need to think about the customer experience and what people do with their time.
Nice. Really good. Thanks for the question, Chase, and thanks for a great answer, Tim. Uh, well, we're gonna be talking about our last topic here. Last but not the least, how will electrification change drivers' notion of convenience and customer experiences, and what can dealers do now to get ready?
We walked right into that one, didn't we?
Yeah,
I'm actually going to be at Electrify Expo. Electrify Expo is one of our clients at Brain+Trust, and I actually get to play program director in finding all the speakers that will talk at Industry Day. This first one coming up on June 3rd in Long Beach. We've got about 40 speakers, and two or three of the panels are talking about this very thing. They're talking about customer experience with the fact that every time research is done, anytime a third party or a watchdog is going out and looking at the integrity or the maintenance of chargers, they're finding that the numbers are only about 70 to 80% of the chargers that have been deployed so far are 100% up all the time and running and actually functional. The other the other 20 to 25% are actually in disrepair, or they've shorted out, or they've just got a bug in them of some sort from a software standpoint. And that causes problems, right? Because especially in these early days when people get their first EV or they rent one, like I do on Turo, or as you can from a Hertz or an Enterprise, as you get in that vehicle, you don't want to have range anxiety. You don't want to have a fear that if I pull up to something, how the heck does it work? Do I need to open an account? Yes, you do in most cases. If you're driving a Tesla, usually you'll just be able to charge it to whoever owns the Tesla. But with that customer experience side of it, right? We've got to make sure that as we deploy this technology, that it runs and that it works. We've got to do that. But the other side is that deeper side of what I was talking about. I just think that there are certain brands out there, and they will remain nameless, that think just by putting a couple of chargers in the parking lot that they're doing their part to uh, cater to and meet the needs of the EV driver. When in fact, I think there is, especially in parts of, I would say, parts of Canada, parts of the American West and Southwest, where we have hundreds of miles between cities. What exists in between those cities? It can't be just an old truck stop. It can't be just an old filling station that now has a charger, because what is the experiential value of stopping there? We have Buc-ee's in the state of Texas, and actually across the southeast now. Buc-ee's is a fantastic place for you to be able to burn 20 minutes and a whole lot of money getting something to eat and a t-shirt and using an extremely clean bathroom. My point is where's it going to go next? And that's where I think we're going to start to see places, let's consider them charging oases that exist maybe in urban areas, certainly in rural areas, where if you need to charge your vehicle, the place that you charge it is a place that makes you happy. It's a place that entertains you. It's not a place that just looks for you to buy candy bars and potato chips and go to a bathroom that you are embarrassed to let anybody know you walked into. So we'll have to change what we do. And if we really expect people at scale to buy and drive EVs everywhere they go, not the way they've been sold to us initially as something to help us get around town. And the good news is most of the OEMs are looking at this. Lots of people in the charging world, in terms of charging platforms, in terms of plug to grid strategists, folks that are coming from the utility companies, they're all looking at the same thing right now: is how do we go about building out the infrastructure and go a step further and think about the customer experience. I think it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be a whole lot of fun to see what's built next, and this is what happens, right? Um, my big prediction is all the old abandoned railroad towns that people drive through, those one stoplight towns that you drive through across most of the southern half, through the Midwest, through the West, most of the half of the United States. I imagine there's some of it in Canada as well. Those old railroad towns are going to be some of the places that I see reborn, because they become places that people will have to stop, charge their vehicles, and hang out for 15 to 30 minutes, at least for the next 10 years. That's what we're looking for.
That's amazing. Yeah, we got places like that, especially in Atlantic Canada. It's very it's sparsely populated. There's not very many people live. So when you drive, sometimes you go like 100 kilometers, which is 60 miles,
Right.
before you have an exit to from the highway, right? So
Right.
so yeah, it's an interesting idea, because those distances, you're not going to be able to do that. So you have to be able to build some, places to stop your vehicle and charge it and hang out and have some fun. And so it's going to be interesting, the road trips in the future, definitely. Uh,
Definitely.
we have another comment from Chris Brogan. Chris said, related to this, people are selling their vehicles as a kind of entertainment experience on wheels. Is that really the win, or can we get even deeper?
Oh, we can get deeper, Chris. We certainly can. I think, to the point about cars, trucks, vans, SUVs becoming some type of entertainment experience, right? Um, I think I think it's the right move. I've been going to the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, in Las Vegas for all but 4 of the last 17, 18 years. And over the last 10 years, you've seen more and more automotive brands showing up to CES. They originally showed up just to show things like Bluetooth connectivity or maybe GPS technology. Now they're showing up to show you what it's like to have self driving or adaptive cruise control, and then to be able to have a larger screen in the vehicle for you to do everything from play video games to watch movies. Um, Most of them are not allowing you to do this unless the car is parked. But where we're headed, where we are headed, and this is the deeper part, Chris, is that soon we are going to have vehicles that absolutely can take us from point A to point B without us ever touching the steering wheel. People want to argue with me on this, that it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen within 5 years. I disagree. I think that it's going to happen sometime in the next 3 to 8 years is when the real scale is going to happen. And when we do that, vehicles, this is, I've talked to people in Los Angeles about self-driving cars a couple years ago, and they're like, I can't wait for that because I can get off work and I can take a nap on the way to Vegas. Well, think about, if you're not sleeping, what else are you going to do? You're going to lean your chair all the way back and you're going to watch a movie that's being projected on the roof. Um, you're going to have popcorn that comes out of the glove box. I don't know, but it is going to be that type of experience. We're going to see more and more as the connected home and the connected car become the next frontier of digitization and digital experiences. We'll see more of all that, especially as cars become smarter and drive themselves. Just wait for it.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. Especially when you're driving through Toronto with the traffic. You want someone else to drive that vehicle so you can take a nap, because it's the same feeling, driving from Los Angeles to Vegas. It's how long it takes to pass through the city, because we have the busiest the highway in North America, and it is pretty bad. It's the rush hour at
Well,
times.
what are you talking about, John? People drive down, they drive down that highway looking at their phone while they're driving already. I mean, yeah, the point is, I mean, there's a snapshot of the behavior, right? People are looking at their phones while they're driving. And what will happen as the cars become smarter, safer, and self-supportive, autonomous? As that happens, we will see more of that digital experience. It'll go from the phone, it'll be within the car, it'll be maybe on a big flat screen that's in the center of the car, it may be on the roof, it may be on the windows. Lots of possibilities, lots of people playing with that type of technology right now. But it'll happen within the next decade. Those of us that are around right now and around 10 years from now, we're going to see it all happen.
Great stuff. Well, Tim, I really appreciate for your time coming up to the show today. It's been a very elevating experience to, you take us to the future and, what can happen and all these good information. Before I wrap this up, anything you want to add, like contact details and all that good stuff?
Sure. All that good stuff. On Twitter, I am the Tim Hayden at the Tim Hayden. That's the best place to engage with me publicly and make sure I respond to you, answer your questions, connect with me there. LinkedIn, you can find me there as well. And then our website is braintrust.partners. You can go there, you can register for our newsletter, which is not exactly monthly, but you'll be on that list. And then the last thing I'll just give a nod to is Electrify Expo. Going to 5 cities this year. We'll start off in LA. We'll go to Miami. We'll go to New York, Seattle. We'll have its last show here in Austin, Texas. These are fantastic shows for you to be able to see everything that's happening within electric mobility, e-mobility right now. It's the largest festival of its kind in North America, but also what other technologies are there: solar, hydrogen cell power, a number of other technologies that are at play. It's a fantastic place, I think, for people that are in the car biz. But as Chris Brogan, got us to talk about a little bit, it's anybody who's in business right now. If you want to understand what's going to happen next on how people get from point A to point B, that'll help you understand how they're going to buy things. That'll understand how they're going to shop, and they're going to discover how they're going to live. It's not just as simple as before. You need to keep an eye on what's coming on the market right now, and that's a great place to do it.
Thank you very much, Tim. And I thank our audience today. And if you guys missed the whole conversation, this is recorded live. You can watch it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or you can listen to this conversation in your vehicle. We are on pretty much in every single podcast place there. So again, thank you very much for your time, Tim, and thanks for our audience to asking these good questions and being a participant into it. And talk to you later. Thank you very much.
You got it. Thanks, John.